Hey everyone, welcome to this explainer. Listen, if you're an infrastructure admin gearing up for the Nutanix certification, you've landed in the absolute perfect place. Today, we're tackling a highly specific, must-know topic. Our exact focus is NCP-MCI 7.5, 5.3 SSL certificates. I know, studying for the NCP-MCI 7.5 exam can literally feel like drinking from a fire hose, right? But don't worry, we're going to break down Objective 5.3 together with a really steady, structured approach. We'll cover exactly how Nutanix handles SSL certs, the why behind it, and the how. So when you sit down for that exam, you're going to nail these questions instantly.
So here's our agenda for today. 1. The foundation. 2. Core walkthrough. 3. The periphery. 4. Exam traps. And 5. Key facts. Let's get right into it. Part 1. The foundation. Why SSL certificates matter. Out of the box, Nutanix actually gives you a default self-signed certificate, so you can log into your Prism web console securely from day one. But listen, here is the golden rule for literally any production environment. Nutanix strongly recommends replacing that default self-signed cert with a trusted CA-signed SSL certificate. Doing this guarantees secure, verified communication. And honestly, it completely gets rid of those annoying red browser warnings that basically train your end users to just ignore actual security threats. Now, before we look at these specific steps for doing this, let's just eliminate any ambiguity around the acronyms you're going to see on the exam and in the UI. So, a CSR, that's a certificate signing request. It's the encrypted message you send off to a CA or certificate authority to basically apply for your certificate. The CA is that trusted third party that actually signs and issues it. An FQDN is your fully qualified domain name, something like prism.yourcompany.com. And crucially, the SAN, or Subject Alternative Name, is a really handy extension that lets you secure multiple host names. So you could add both clusterip.local and prism.yourcompany.com using just one single certificate. Right off the bat, here is our first major architectural rule. Prism Central, and hey, this applies to Prism Element too, only supports a cluster-wide SSL certificate. You've really got to keep this in mind. Security here is managed at the cluster level, not on an individual node level. Understanding this cluster-wide scope is absolutely critical. It's a game changer for your day-to-day operations and, for sure, for passing this exam.
All right, moving on to Part 2, Core Walkthrough, Generating and Importing Certificates.
Let's actually walk through the exact procedure. If you're generating a CSR right from the command line, the sequence is highly specific. First up, you're going to SSH into the Prism Central VM or the Prism Element Controller VM using the Nutanix user account. Next, you create a config file named exactly ssl.cnf in your home directory. This file holds all your organizational details. And let me tell you, getting this right the first time saves you the massive headache of having to revoke and reissue everything later. After that, you run OpenSSL commands to generate your private key and the CSR itself. And finally, you use SCP, Secure Copy Protocol, to pull those resulting .key and .csr files down to your local machine. Once you have them locally, you can finally send that CSR off to your certificate authority.
Now, here's a detail you absolutely cannot ignore, and it's the underlying why for using a SAN. Nutanix explicitly recommends that you include a DNS name for all Prism Central VMs or CVMs in your CSR by using that Subject Alternative Name extension we talked about. Why go through the trouble? Well, it entirely prevents SSL certificate errors when you're accessing the console via its fully qualified domain name instead of just the shared cluster IP. It seems like a minor thing, but it makes a huge difference for daily administration and stops your users from constantly running into those scary red security warnings.
So, when your CA finally asks what kind of key you actually want, you can't just pick anything. Your configuration has to comply with strict NIST and NSA standards. For key types, you can use RSA at 2048 or 4096 bits, or you can go with ECDSA, that's Elliptic Curve Digital Signature Algorithm, at 256, 384, or 521 bits. As for the signatures, you strictly have to use SHA-256, SHA-384, or SHA-512. Knowing these exact supported configurations is pure gold for the exam, so literally burn these numbers into your memory.
Okay, so your CA signs the certificate and you bring it back to the Prism UI. You'll log in as an admin, navigate to the SSL certificate menu, and hit Replace Certificate. Listen closely here, because file extensions really matter. You're going to upload your private key, and that absolutely must be a .key file. Your public certificate has to be a .cer or .crt file.
And your CA certificate chain? That also gets uploaded as a .crt file. And here is a very specific system behavior you've got to know. Prism Central only stores one custom SSL certificate at a time, period. The exact second you upload a new certificate, the system just instantly overwrites the old one. There's no historical bank of previous custom certs saved somewhere in the UI, so once it's replaced, it's totally replaced.
So what exactly happens the moment you click Apply? We've all had that little moment of panic when swapping certs, right? Well, if it's a valid import, the web console restarts immediately, all the current browser sessions become invalid, meaning users get logged out until they refresh the page and accept the new secure connection. But what if the import is invalid? Like maybe the file was corrupted or it's just the wrong type altogether. Take a deep breath. Prism is smart enough to just discard the bad file and smoothly revert right back to the default Nutanix self-signed certificate. You are not going to permanently lock yourself out of the system just because of a bad file upload.
All right, part 3, the periphery, third-party, and backup certs.
When we move beyond the core components, you'll find that other Nutanix services actually handle certificate replacements and integrations a bit differently. You really need to understand these nuances for the exam. For example, if you're using Nutanix Move for your virtual machine migrations, swapping out the SSL certificate has some severe, immediate operational impacts. As the official rules strictly warn us, any ongoing VM migrations will fail instantly. The Move session will restart and active users get booted out. So you absolutely have to plan any certificate maintenance in Nutanix Move very carefully around your actual migration schedules.
Now what about Prism Central Backup and Restore, or PCBR? When you configure this to talk to an S3 compliant object store, there are some very specific rules to follow. First, if you're using an FQDN for the object store, you've got to have DNS mapping configured. On top of that, if your S3 object store relies on self-signed certificates instead of the CA-signed ones, those self-signed certs must be securely downloaded and explicitly recognized by the system. If you don't do this, the Prism Central restore workflow just won't function.
Okay, buckle up. Part 4. The minefield. Common exam traps.
We are officially entering the territory of tricky exam questions. This is exactly where test writers try to figure out if you've actually read the documentation or if you're just guessing. So imagine you get a scenario like this. Your security team requires unique certificates for every single node in your environment. Can you apply a custom SSL certificate to an individual controller VM? Think back to the architectural limits we laid out earlier. What do you think?
The answer is a massive, emphatic no. The official documentation states this as a hard rule. The SSL certificate cannot be customized for an individual controller VM. You can only import a cluster-wide SSL certificate. Do not let a sneaky multiple-choice option trick you into thinking you can manage these on a per-node basis from the Prism interface. It's just not supported. Let's hit a few more rapid-fire strict limitations. These make for perfect distractor options on the exam. First up, SSL certificates are never supported for SHA-1, not even for root CAs. If you see SHA-1, don't pick it. Second, if you're setting up client and CAC authentication, the system strictly requires RSA 2048-bit certificates, not 4096, not ECDSA, just RSA 2048. And finally, remember our chat about Nutanix Move? If you try to upload a .pem file for the private key, Move will reject it outright. It is looking specifically for a .key file.
Almost at the finish line. Part 5. The cheat sheet. Key facts to memorize.
We've covered a ton of ground in this explainer, going all the way from OpenSSL commands down to strict system limits. So let's lock this knowledge in. Here are the absolute crucial takeaways for Objective 5.3. 1. Prism Central and Prism Element only ever use cluster-wide certificates, never individual CVM certs. 2. Using the Subject Alternative Name, or SAN, extension is your magic ticket to preventing SSL errors when accessing your cluster via DNS. 3. If you accidentally botch an import, don't panic. The system safely discards it and reverts to the default Nutanix cert. And 4. Never ever swap a certificate on Nutanix Move while a migration is actively running because it will instantly fail.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final thought regarding your Day 2 operations. We've talked a lot about how to generate and apply these CA-signed certificates flawlessly. But you know, certificates expire, and we've all felt the pain of a completely unexpected outage caused by a forgotten expiration date. The good news is, Nutanix Prism actually has built-in health checks that will notify you of any impending expirations. So my question to you is, how will you integrate those alerts into your daily monitoring workflows to make sure you get them replaced before you get locked out? Something to chew on as you continue your exam prep. Thanks so much for hanging out and focusing in with me today. And hey, good luck on the NCP-MCI 7.5 exam.